everyone, welcome to the House of Fi. I am Wendy and this is my better half.
Hey, Curtis.
Curtis. And we are so excited to talk to you again today. In our last video, we talked about one of the huge milestones that we reached, and that was $100,000 in liquid assets in cash. And that was big.
Yes.
That was big, especially considering where we started. And that's why we thought it would be important to share with you our net worth and where it was when we started, where we are now, and kind of those changes along the way. So stick around for about 6 seconds and we'll be right back. So hey babe,
Hey.
have you seen the spreadsheets that I have for our net worth?
Just a little bit.
Right, so a lot of this is going to be new information for you, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, well that'll be fun.
I'm excited.
Are you really?
Yeah.
We are excited though because, you know, hitting these milestones are important, and, you know, especially if you started in a place like where we did with $1 million in debt, which I'll link above, you can learn more about that, but where we started to where we are now has just been, it's night and day. And so it can be a long journey, and you can start in a place of just really, you know, feeling like this is I'm never gonna get there. And that's why I think it's important to track, and that's why I track, because sometimes you do feel like, oh gosh, I haven't made any progress. But then you go back and you look at maybe, you know, 6 months before, a year before, and you're like, wow, we really have done something here, and it provides you with kind of that fuel to keep going. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, let's dive in.
All right, let's dive in. Real quick before we do, I have a link for Robinhood down below, where if you sign up for Robinhood, both you and I will get a free stock just for signing up. So yeah, check that out. What's cool with Robinhood is that you can buy you know, just small shares of companies. It allows you to not have that big buy-in. But what's cool is Robinhood offers VTI, and you can get that with as little as $100. So it's really cool. And not only that, you get a free stock and I get a free stock, which is really cool. So that link is down below. But let's get to it.
Yes. Let's
dive into this net worth update and talk about the numbers, because I love numbers.
I don't.
If you've seen our liquid asset video, which I'll also link up above or down below, you know how to calculate your net worth. Do you know how to calculate your net worth?
No.
All right. Well, it's really, really simple. It's a really easy equation. It's where you add up all of your assets and you add up all of your liabilities. So things like loans, mortgages, credit cards, personal loans. Your assets are all of your things that have value: cash, savings, retirement accounts, home, value of your home, value of your automobiles, as well as your personal property if you choose to. I don't include our personal property in that just because I don't know that it has as much value.
Yeah.
So maybe I would like it too. So I just don't include it. And then you take your assets, you subtract your liability. What is left over is your net worth.
That's a lot.
It is.
And don't think that I'm not in this 100%, but Wendy is a numbers person, and you know, I just like to, I get excited when we talk about this, and you know, as we move forward, I learn, I read, I do all my information, but I get mainly from her.
He's big picture.
Yeah.
I'm like nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. And he's like concrete thinker, and I'm like, you know, pie in the sky. Right?
Yeah.
All right, so now that you know how to calculate your net worth, you really have the makings of what we've included in our spreadsheet. So this first screen that I'm going to show you all is all of our assets. We started tracking our net worth in May of 2017. We started our financial independence journey in the previous year in 2016, but I only started tracking things in May of 2017. So in this first row, you see all of the assets that we had back in May of 2017. And so our total assets really wasn't anything. It was our house, which was valued at about $650,000. And when we bought it, the previous year was not worth that much. We bought it for about $100,000 less than that, and it was in bad shape. It was a foreclosure. So when I started recording, we had already gotten a lot of value increased in that asset. And then the only other thing that we had was we had started
my retirement.
Kurt's retirement. And so you'll see that that figure was only in the 14,000 range, which that's it. We didn't have anything else. So when we say that we started this financial independence at zero, we really did start it at zero. And this figure here from May of 2017 is just really that first year of beginning our FIRE journey. And so then let's fast forward to our present assets, and the picture has changed quite a bit.
Very much.
Now our assets have actually decreased significantly as far as overall assets, and the reason for that is that we sold our house last year. Which was one of our big financial moves, and we can tell you more about that in one of our other videos that we'll link above. But we made the decision to sell our house, and it was the best decision that we made.
And the toughest.
It was toughest. Yeah, it was super hard because we loved that house. We really, really did. We did an interview recently with the guys over at Checks and Balances, which I'll link down below, where we get into that decision-making process. I encourage you to check it out. It's a really good interview, and we explain how we arrived at that decision. But I am wandering. So you see that our overall assets decreased by quite a bit, but the areas of our savings in other areas increased significantly. So you'll also see that we have rental properties now, and we purchased those very recently. They have not appreciated very much. We bought 4 houses. The total value for all 4 houses is $104,000. And in the area that we are investing in the Midwest, we do not expect those assets to appreciate very much, if at all. They may appreciate maybe 1% or so every year, but that it's not a lot. And that's okay, because we have not bought those homes for their appreciation. We have bought those homes for their cash flow. So and we can talk about that in another video, but for this video, we just want to know what those are worth, and those are worth $104,000. You'll also see that our emergency fund account is at $9,500, which that's not a lot. It's really not, but for us, that is huge. Because we didn't have anything. We didn't have any emergency fund, and that's one of the things that selling our house has allowed us to do, is to build up an emergency fund and to give out room in our monthly expenses to be able to contribute to that regularly. And the goal for that is to get it up to 6 months to a year of our monthly expenses. So that's the goal for that account. And then the final one, which is the biggie, is that we have over $90,000 in Kurt's retirement accounts, which that's so incredible. So incredible.
Between the two, it's awesome. And we continue to add to it on a quarterly basis. So, you know, that helps us out with our totals.
We increase that every quarter. That is a commitment that we have made to ourselves, that every single quarter we're going to keep inching that up to see how far we can go. Hopefully my business income continues to increase so that we can offset the reduction in Kurt's income, so that we can eventually max out his retirement plans and save that you know, $38,000 a year.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the goal. So that's our assets. Now let's take a look at our liabilities. All right. So again, here we're going back to May of 2017. The biggest liability that we had was our house. We live in San Diego, California. We live in a high cost of living area, and our mortgage was $500,000, more than $500,000, which is a lot.
Yeah.
But not so much for California, fairly typical, and actually probably less than the median for San Diego. And that's because we had got it at a really good price and it was a foreclosure. But that was half of it. Now the other half is big numbers too. So we had almost $70,000 in secured debt. Those were all of our vehicles. We have not purchased new vehicles, I don't think ever.
No.
But we had a Suburban, and so it
Yeah.
had a big one, and then we still have it. We have the Dodge, and then we had another car. So we had 3 vehicles, and each one of them had a loan on it. Those totaled almost $70,000. The other figures that you're going to see there are the other half of the huge portion, and that's both of our student loans. We have talked about this before. We did not make really good decisions with our student loans, and if we had to do it all over again, I think we would do it very, very differently.
Yeah.
I went to law school. He has a master's degree, and we borrowed way more than we should have.
Yeah.
We were just very uneducated about student loans and thought we had more time. And then we got to a point where we're approaching 50 and we realized we were out of time. So here we are approaching 50, and we have these, you know, several $100,000 worth of student loans, but we are working on it. We have a plan for those, which we can talk about at some point. The final piece of that puzzle was some old IRS tax debt, which is going back now to 2007 when I started my law practice. We hugely underestimated the amount that we needed to put away being self-employed. And then the next year, I thought I had it figured out, and I hadn't. And then we went 2 more years before finally just biting the bullet and getting a CPA, paying, you know, the $1,000, $1,500 for a CPA who really helped us out. And we never owed again after that. But those first 3 or 4 years totaled about $80,000.
Yeah, put us in the hole.
Yeah, there were already these big numbers, and then to have this old IRS debt of $80,000. So when we started tracking this, we had already paid about $30,000 of that and had $50,000 left to go. So altogether, those 4 or 5 areas totaled $1 million.
That's crazy.
$1 million. You can see how easy it is to get to those big numbers, though, right?
Yeah.
Like super easy. So that's where we started. We found the financial independence community. We just started slashing our budget, really getting aggressive about debt payoff and cutting expenses and growing our savings. So then jump forward to presently, and we do not have that mortgage anymore. So when we share our story and our current circumstances, we talk about having gotten rid of $650,000 to $700,000 worth of debt. $550,000 of that was our mortgage, which even though it was hard giving up that house, not having that huge number feels good.
Yeah,
feels really, really good. Now we have the mortgage on our rental properties, which is only about $72,000, which is great because we put 30% down on those. We still have our student loans, and actually those have increased because we're not paying very much on those right now. But again, we have a plan for those. Curtis is in the public student loan forgiveness program because he works as a teacher. So we have payments set up on those at a lower amount, and if he pays them for 10 years, at the end, that amount is forgiven. So we're not so much concerned with the balance of his loan. And then for my loan, because I'm not making very much money right now in our business, I'm able to keep those payments very, very, very low. And my plan for those is just to keep paying those at a low amount. It makes more sense for us to keep that low and then let that discharge at 20 years for my undergraduate loans, I believe, and 25 years for my graduate loans. So that's our plan for those. So where does that put our net worth? That puts us at a negative net worth of $250,000. But guys, we started at a negative $350,000.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. We have had an adjustment in our net worth of $100.
$100,000.
Well, yeah, $100 would be very good. But $100,000,
Yes.
which for us and for where we started to where we are now, I think that's amazing.
That is amazing.
And I hope to be able to continue to show you guys every month how we just keep getting that number lower and lower and lower and closing that gap. And what I would love to see is that, you know, in a few years that we're not in the negative anymore, but we're actually like in the black.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
So we have $100,000 in assets. Why aren't we using that money to put towards the $248,000 in our negative net worth?
Because having cash is important.
Yes.
Yeah, so for us, maybe that might have made sense if we were younger, maybe in our early 30s or in our 20s, but now that we have a family, now that we are approaching 50, in, gosh, what, 6 months for you? We're approaching 50. Having that money in retirement, having that money in savings is incredible. And I think especially, you know, in the time that we're in right now where we're living in a pandemic, the importance of having cash reserves has just been kind of magnified. So, you know, people are out of work. So for us, having that cash is really, really important. And I'm not so much worried right now about the debt service as I am about putting as much money as we can right now into savings. Now, if things change and things get more stable, we can probably, shift those ratios just a little bit. But I think the important thing right now is to shift as much of our focus into cash and cash reserves and our savings right now.
And our money is working for us.
Exactly. And as it grows, it's growing and working for us, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we get to a point where we have a whole bunch in our savings account and we just get tired of looking at some of that debt, we can always at a later date just, make a huge payment. So that's something that we can visit in the future. But right now it's about stockpiling money.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, guys. We hope this has been helpful. We'll see you back here next week. Bye.
Bye.